Fargo is an anthology series created by Noah Hawley, exploring a disparate collection of characters who deal with a plethora of crimes in different time periods, the only main thing in common being their connection to the Midwest USA. Based on the movie of the same name by the Coen brothers, the first season of Fargo deals with the weak-willed insurance salesman Lester Nygaard, bullied and pushed around by those around him and forever made to feel like a loser. After damaging his nose, Lester goes to the hospital where in the waiting room he has a chance encounter with a mysterious man known as Lorne Malvo. We've previously seen Lorne drive his car with a half-naked man locked in the boot, so he's clearly a nefarious fellow of some kind. But as Lester and Lorne get to talking, and Lester mentions being antagonized by Sam Hess, a man who used to bully him in school, Malvo says if he was in Lester's position, he would have killed Hess. There's clearly 100 thoughts going through Lester's mind during this conversation, and at some point he says, "You're so sure about it, why don't you just kill him for me?" "You're asking me to kill this man," declares Malvo to a mumbling and stuttering Lester, who is flummoxed at the suggestion that his new best friend actually seems to be entertaining the idea, but at the same time, Lester never really says no to Malvo's offer. Eventually, of course, Malvo does kill Hess, with Lester becoming a suspect. Meanwhile, unable to take his wife's demeaning remarks anymore, Lester snaps and kills her with a hammer in his basement, then panicking and calling Malvo, who arrives just in time to blow away Police Chief Thurman, who is about to cuff Lester and take him away. With police backup arriving, Malvo mysteriously disappears and Lester knocks himself out, planning on telling the cops a home invader attacked him and his wife. The season goes on from there, with Lester trying to stay out of the law's clutches. We meanwhile learn a lot more about Malvo, who is some kind of contract killer. It turns out Sam Hess was a connected guy and mobsters arrive in town looking for his killer. Their paths and Malvo's eventually meet in bloody fashion. All the while Malvo is in the middle of a blackmailing scheme and eventual revenge mission against his would-be assassins. Eventually, Malvo is killed by former police officer Gus Grimley, and along the way we learn that Malvo is clearly a sociopath of some sort, lacking empathy for others and having a twisted sense of morality and justice, exemplified in monologues about predators and preys. He clearly looks out for his own interests, which brings up an intriguing question once you see that he is clearly not a man interested in helping others. Why did Malvo help Lester in the first place? Why did he kill Sam Hess for Lester when there was no benefit, nothing to gain for himself in the matter? One could argue that maybe he felt sorry for Lester, and perhaps that is the answer, but it's unlikely given what we know about him, and there was nothing in it for him. So with this being such an important plot point which kickstarts the entire story, we have to ask ourselves, why did Lorne Malvo even help Lester? To answer, we really have to explore this ominous character of Lorne Malvo and what motivates him, what drives him. From seeing the events of Season 1, Malvo is clearly not a good Samaritan who goes around helping people with their issues. In fact, the character's black humor, which essentially involves him stirring trouble for people, causing trouble, meaning there must have been some sinister intentions behind his helping of Lester. Malvo messes about with those father's kids in a later episode, needlessly telling them that their home had murders take place and it might be haunted. He also nudges a dude towards pissing in the fuel cap of a motel owner, and phones the motel owner while the guy is going at it and watches her chase him around. He also messes with Hess's sons regarding an inheritance that doesn't exist. And for someone who doesn't value human life, perhaps for Malvo there is really little difference between pissing in a petrol tank and murdering someone. He seems to get his kicks from causing trouble in people's lives, some kind of Stradenfruit complex where he clearly enjoys it when he does a bit of shit stirring. "I'm a rascal," as he says at one point. The fact that he is able to thoroughly enjoy himself and not be intimidated by some of the more gruff characters of the season implies he's some kind of apex predator, if you will, who comes from a much harsher world. So the characters he deals with in the Midwest are small fish, they're nothing but an amusement for him. But it isn't just a bit of harmless troublemaking. Malvo's actions seem motivated by something darker. Going back to his talk about predators, prey, wolves, order and lawlessness, perhaps Malvo has a desire to see humanity devolve. He wants to prove to himself and others that mankind is still only a few steps away from being like primitive animals. All it takes is a little push, and he gains satisfaction when he is able to twist events to make civilized people become animals. He's a glutton for chaos and disorder, and his job as a hitman is an outlet for him to indulge in his passions. To see him as a contract killer who went out of his way to help Lester is missing the point of the character. Rather, we should see him as an agent of chaos who becomes a contract killer to get his kicks. Some men just want to watch the world burn. And to borrow another line from The Dark Knight, the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. It's a line said by another self-proclaimed agent of chaos, the Joker, but you can just as easily see Malvo coming out with such a line. There's another question to ponder, which is why he released Mr. Wrench, the deaf hitman who came close to killing him. He killed the guy's partner, but not only didn't kill Mr. Wrench, but facilitated his escape from the law. If we see Malvo as an agent of chaos, well then perhaps he knew Wrench would be more useful out there in the world causing mischief like him than be dead. One interpretation that fans have is that Malvo is actually a devil, or a minion of some sort for the underworld. His interests lie in causing mischief, he enjoys it, and with Lester he saw an opportunity to give him a prod, to point him to the apple tree, so to speak, so his victims end up being tempted and make decisions that begin a series of unfortunate events that ruin their lives. There's quite a bit of beef behind this theory. For one, he literally references the Garden of Eden at one point where he says, "I haven't had pie that good since the Garden of Eden." He associates with religion quite a lot, like faking being a priest and using verses from the Bible to manipulate the rich store owner. He tries to kill Lester too in the end when it is all said and done. I don't want to talk about this too much because Malvo trying to kill Lester is something I want to talk about in another video. But the idea of Malvo tempting Lester down a dark path where he loses his humanity but gains the world, gains the girl, money, fame, power, but then that very same Malvo coming to kill Lester could be seen as him claiming his prize. After getting him to sin and lose his way, he now tries to send him to hell. After Malvo shoots 3 people in the elevator, the shot where he watches Lester run away looks pretty spooky, with the bloodstains looking like wings of blood. Even in his death scene, he looks somewhat demonic and smiles at Gus when Gus shoots him, as if he isn't frightened because he will be back, or he is satisfied that he has gotten Gus to essentially commit murder and kill a defenseless man, him now carrying the heavy sin of murder. So looking at Malvo like this, a man who enjoys tempting otherwise ordinary people down a dark path, and maybe even some kind of supernatural entity who is able to do questionable things, like disappear in the opening episode after killing the chief, all of a sudden, his reasons for helping Lester become more clear. What if you're right and they're wrong? As Lester's fish poster says. That's pretty much the question Malvo poses for his victims. What if civility, kindness and society are wrong, and those dark, primal urges you feel deep down are right? Malvo probably asked for Lester's soda when they met to test him, to see if Lester would be submissive so he could dominate him, influence him, tempt him. Maybe he recognized in Lester's eyes the monster he was capable of becoming, or the fact that Lester didn't outright say no to killing Hess showed Malvo that deep down, Lester wanted this. Malvo saw evil potential in Lester, so did the deed, and then essentially put the blame on Lester when they next meet at the diner. He wanted Lester to own it, to be accountable for it, so he started to feel comfortable going down a dark path. Maybe in that very first meeting, the two men saw themselves in their counterpart. Lester seeing the alpha predator he was too afraid to become, and Malvo seeing the wolf hiding in sheep's clothing, who only needed a prod to start baring his teeth. In the diner scene where the duo talk, Malvo comes off as playful and tongue-in-cheek until Lester becomes angry at the suggestion he killed Hess, and brings the law into the conversation. At this point, Malvo gets genuinely angry.
Who said anything about a court of law? I just mean...
Which extinguishes the brief rage and confidence Lester had. But that rage was there all the same, and Malvo saw it, and he took hold of it, bringing Lester's anger back out, but directing it to others around him instead. Malvo lets many potential victims go, Usually good-natured people like Gus, who he probably perceives as weak. He's a predator who is capable of recognizing other predators, worthy targets, and he hierarchizes, like letting Gus go, knowing he was not a predator. It's like a bear throwing back a fish that is too small to eat, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he wanted to kill Lester towards the end of the season, because he now saw him as worthy prey, a potentially good addition to his collection. Speaking of collections, the man walks around with a case with tapes of what appears to be previous victims. When he first listens to Lester's conversation with him, it seems he's looking for clues or something, maybe seeing if he can set Lester up with the cops. But it soon becomes apparent that these tapes are previous victims of Malvo who he has turned into monsters, and he seems to be getting off of listening to their lives crash around them over and over. Maybe there's 50 more Lesters out there that Malvo has created, and it's his sick hobby to wreck people's lives and record their breakdowns. They show him listening to another tape at one point, and it sounds like someone saying, "You said those things, put those thoughts into my head," and then seemingly kills himself. It seems like he's an expert at putting disturbing animalistic thoughts into people's heads, making them go against the flow of society. He chooses targets who have a weakness inside them that he can exploit, so they self-destruct for his own amusement. So he didn't help Lester, he targeted him. Lester is probably a pet project for him, a side mission, and the elevator scene implies he's happy with his progress and envisaged going around with Lester, doing mischief together until Lester hit him. Malvo seems genuinely disappointed, and funny enough, when he goes after Lester, Lester actually beats him, catching him in a bear trap. Malvo, the Dr. Frankenstein, created a monster that even he could not put down. Lester used the same tactic that Malvo used to get out of the hospital. In other words, feign weakness and innocence to trap Malvo, and Malvo let his guard down, underestimating Lester, which is why he lost the battle. He always knows what he's dealing with. He's a predator at the top of the food chain. But with Lester, who had transformed, he simply didn't recognize the new Lester. He's a very interesting character, Malvo, and he's made more compelling with his human traits, having a sense of humor, getting frustrated, making mistakes. He also clearly has a big ego, with him unwilling to give Gus the satisfaction and smiling at him when he is shot to spite the man. Malvo once told a story about a bear that got stuck in a trap and bit or clawed its own leg off and died a while later in a stream, saying it died on its own terms. And this is pretty much what happens to Malvo himself in the end, who gets caught in a bear trap, escapes, and dies on his own terms. So he may have died, he may be out of the game, but in many ways, Malvo actually won in the end. So what do you think about Malvo, and why do you think he helped Lester in the first place? Let me know in the comments below, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.